So I started HRT back on August 1st of 2018, 6 years ago. I spent all of August trying to figure out what I would like to say in my 6 year anniversary video. You know, a lot has changed over the last few years. We live in a totally different world now than we did back in 2018. And 6 years, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but a lot has happened and the world has changed a lot since then. So first I'd like to ask that all of you who are watching to please like the video, and you can share and subscribe too. I would greatly appreciate that. So let's start with, how am I treated by my family compared to the rest of society? I'm perceived and treated as a woman in society. I almost never get misgendered by anyone anymore. But when it comes to family, I still feel as though I'm still perceived as male. Even though I am biologically male, I'm not in denial about that at all. I feel like a lot of my family, they still think that I'm capable of taking on the amount of stress that I was able to take on when I was presenting in society as a male. But that's not the case at all, and it hasn't been for quite some time. Even though a lot of the same things I still like and I still enjoy, I respond to things differently and I manage stress differently too. And there are just some things that I was able to deal with prior to starting my transition that I don't deal with too well or as well now. It saddens me to say that I feel like trans acceptance has declined just in the last few years. It's nothing like it was prior to 2020 or 2021. Things have gotten pretty crazy, if you ask me. And that's really sad because we are to blame for a lot of it. I'm not saying every single trans person, but some of the trans activists are not doing a good job of representing us. And a lot of them have taken things way too far. Back then, I thought that 6 years down the road that people would be more accepting of trans individuals. But I don't think it's too late for us. I really believe that things can improve for us and get better, and trans acceptance can continue to rise as it was before. Back in 2018, trans women competing against biological women was not a major issue at all. And I don't think it's fair that we compete against biological women in professional sports. That doesn't mean that every trans woman has a physical advantage over a biological woman, but for those of us who did go through male puberty, there's a great chance that we could have somewhat of a physical advantage over biological women, especially if we've been competing in an area of sports for quite some time at a professional level. And all of a sudden, just over the last few years, there's been a focus on children and trying to have children take medications for transitioning. And I don't think that's safe either, because it could cause harm later on down the road, or they could change their minds. Even adults can change their minds, but it's an adult decision that children should not be making. Even if parents are involved, kids deserve to be kids, and trans ideologies and gender ideologies do not need to be forced on to them so early in life. But if a child is showing signs of being trans, I think it's very important that they have enough time to decide if this is something that they really want to do. Because there's no turning back once you reach a certain point. And still, one of my biggest challenges has been laser hair removal. I've only had the chance to have laser done on my face, and I just completed my 12th session at the new place here. I've been doing laser now for, over 6 years now since I started my transition, but, I've had good experiences and not so great experiences with it. But I grow very little facial hair now, thankfully. But the new place that I've been going to since I've been here in Florida, things have kind of become worse between the staff and the management. A lot has changed over that time period. And the esthetician who did laser for me these last 2 years, recently I found out that she left the company. And it turns out that she was under a lot of stress, and the change in management and the demands that were put on her, and I'm sure the other employees are going through it as well, she just wasn't willing to deal with it anymore. And I totally understand that she had to do that for her sake and for her family's sake. So I wish her well with everything. And earlier this year, they changed their policies because when I started going there back in May of 2022, the policy was after you completed your 12 sessions, you can come in at any time for touch ups. And recently this year, they changed that policy to only allowing customers one touch up per year. And with me being trans, that is not something that I could go without for such a long period of time. And laser is expensive. The price has gone up a lot just over the last few years. So I'm dealing with that too, but they seem to be willing to let me come in every 3 to 4 months, which is reasonable. I am perfectly fine with that. But my last treatment, which was about 2 weeks ago, it didn't go too well at all. The esthetician there, this was a different one. She was giving me a hard time, telling me that the soonest that I could come back would be next year for my next laser session. And I knew if I waited that long, hair would probably start regenerating on my face. And the agreement was that I signed up for was to have touch-ups as needed. And I was willing to have touch-ups done quarterly at the most. So the next time I go back, I will ask for a new esthetician. I didn't like dealing with her at all. And normally what I would do, because they no longer provide ice packs for their customers, I would always bring my own. And she was telling me that I can't use ice on my face, that it's not good for laser treatments. But I've been doing that for such a long time now, and the estheticians actually recommended it that I dealt with in the past. But she was telling me that I shouldn't use it. So that made my experience even more painful. Of course, I would love to have laser done on other parts of my body, like my arms and my legs, but laser is expensive and I'm not able to do that right now, unfortunately. And I did do electrolysis back in 2021 before I left Colorado, and that was going pretty well, but I ended up moving and I found out here in Florida it's a lot more, much more expensive. I did do electrolysis once here, and I had to drive about 45 minutes from where I live because she had the best prices at the time. And that was only for one session. At the time, back in 2021 in Colorado, I think I was paying about $55 for each electrolysis session back then. But it's a lot more expensive here in Florida, I found out. So going forward, at this point, it's been 6 years. I feel like hormones have taken me as far as they're going to take me. It's more about maintenance at this point. I would love to have surgery, like a lot of us, but it's not accessible to a lot of us. So I'll have to wait for that. Hopefully, someday the time will come. But I'm trying to get to the place, hopefully someday, where I'll have the necessary resources to pursue that if I still want to. So 6 years, that's more than half a decade. A lot has changed. As I mentioned before, I had no idea that the world would be as crazy as it is right now. But things will get better, and, trans acceptance, we can definitely gain more acceptance by doing things the right way and not infringing on other people's rights and carrying ourselves with respect. and respecting other people too. So if you have any questions, if you'd like to ask me something, feel free to include your questions in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. Please stay safe, everyone. Have a great day.